Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number LB4311-350-603. This is a single-acting, full mortise spring hinge, residential weight, lube bearing steel base, zinc plated. Okay, this is a very typical spring hinge. Let's dissect the part number. LB stands for lube bearing. It's a maintenance-free style of bearing in the inner construction of the spring hinge. 4311 means that it is a residential grade, meaning that the thickness of the leaf is 96 thousandths of an inch thick, and that's typical for standard residential weight hinges. It also means that the screw holes are in a template pattern, which is typical for just standard 3.5 inch hinges, and it means the corners are 1/4 inch radius. The -350 is a reference to the size. That means that this hinge is 3.5 inches tall and is also 3.5 inches wide. The height goes first on a hinge like this. While it's 3.5, you'd still say 3.5 tall first. That'll keep you from getting in trouble when you've got a 4.5 by 4. Now, the 603 is zinc plated. That means that it is a very good corrosion resistant sort of finish on the hinge. Would be very suitable if you wanted a silver color, for sure, but would also it'd be more suitable if you wanted a finish that would be corrosion resistant. Balcony door, exterior, Southern Florida, in a condo building. Boom. Possibly a perfect application for this. Patio doors, same sort of coastal exposure. Or if it's just outside, anywhere, really. Zinc does a real good job with the zinc coating to prevent corrosion. This is a spring hinge. It's a single-acting spring hinge, and that means that it only springs in one direction. Okay, so you'll need it to for a door that you want to have closed behind you. Screws are included in a complementary finish, wood and metal screws. Okay, there is a link below this video to the template, which shows everything important dimensionally about the hinge. The only other thing I'll add is that it is a full mortise hinge. You can see from the swag on the hinge leaf there that when the leaves are brought parallel, the leaves are intended to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame. Therefore, the term full mortise. Okay, all of the other dimensional information is there. It's there for you to determine whether or not this is the proper hinge for you, and I won't beleaguer any of those points because it's all there. Installation instructions are there. They'll also be most likely on the box that you get your hinge in. We're going to go over that now. Setting the tension is done. You'll have a tension rod and a tension pin. The pin is this little silver piece of metal there. The tension rod is the long black piece of metal. You'll install the hinge with the tension collar up. It's non-handed. You can use it for left hand or for right hand doors. Okay. Now, there would be, let's see here now. There would be a guideline below this video in terms of how many hinges that you really need to make a door properly self-closing. Now, that guide in terms of how many hinges you're going to use is below this video, and it basically says that if you've got a door that's up to 3.0 by 7.0, up to 70 pounds, they're recommending 2 spring hinges and then your regular hinge. If your door is heavier than that, go with 3 spring hinges. Yes, this is compatible with mixing and matching with the standard standard hinge that you'll already have, because the axis of pivoting is compatible. Okay. Now, I'm a fan of all spring hinges, and it's not for the obvious reason. It's for the reason that the overall predictability, success of the opening working as you're trying to get it to work is increased when you've got more springs doing the job. All the work's done at the top of the door. And when you've got 1 spring hinge at the top and maybe 1 at the bottom, or however you do it, if you're on the borderline of having a real heavy door, or one that might need to overcome some air pressure conditions, front door, back door of a building, I have personally found that when I have more spring hinges doing the job, I can share that load better so that you can get the door to open and then you can get it moving fast because you can turn the springs up, set the tension so tight on the springs that you'll get the door to move. But if there's not enough residual energy stored in those springs at the last 10 degree of closing, the door can peter out and then not actually latch because it has to overcome the friction of the latch bolt striking the strike plate. I have found with more spring hinges you can have enough residual energy without having to max the spring tension out, and Bommer recommends only 3 turns on it, meaning got my pin, my tension rod, you insert it here and turn it clockwise. When the tension collar is up, you turn it clockwise. You can see as I do that, I reveal an additional hole. They're only recommending 3, okay, of those holes to be increased. If you're underpowered in terms of the spring, you'll set the tension so high that you'll get the door to slam. That's pretty obvious, but the problem with that is that it's not really, it's obviously not good for the health of the door and frame to be slamming all the time. Plus, it can bounce back open on you. So I have just found better success when I've got more spring hinges. Now, if the door is quite light, it's hard to make an argument for overdoing it with springs, except that you'll share that load better and theoretically increase the lifespan of the hinges. If you have any questions on my experiences of setting spring hinges, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to discuss it with you at length. But that pretty much wraps it up on this hinge. Standard template pattern, 3.5, 3.5, quarter-inch radius, which is very typical. You can also get them in 5/8 radius and square corner. And of course, a variety of different finishes. This is zinc, prime coat, polished satin brass, polished satin bronze, polished satin chrome, lots of finishes. So if you have need for one that's not listed, and you might want polished bronze or polished nickel. We'll have to look into that and see if it's something that can be made. The last thing I'd like to point out to you would be the Bommer logo. Right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to be a distributor of them. If you have any questions on the Bommer LB4311-350-603, single acting full mortise spring hinge, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.